You were never meant to find it. The map was folded deep in a drawer that hadn't been opened in generations, buried beneath broken compass needles, a lock of hair tied in twine, and a journal with no ink, only pressure where words used to be. It smelled faintly of salt, smoke, and old storms, and when your fingers brushed it, the room felt suddenly tilted, as if the world had quietly changed its mind about gravity. You should have left it alone, but you didn't. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy drifting into these quiet worlds, where history forgets to be loud, and myth and memory walk hand in hand. Now, dim the lights. Adjust the brightness of your screen. Let your shoulders soften. You've just crossed the first threshold. Let's slip gently into tonight's story. Together. The paper is ancient, not brittle, but worn the way shorelines are worn, by time and questions. It hums faintly as you unfold it. No names, no grid, just shimmering lines that suggest continents, or coastlines, or maybe veins. In one corner, a single word: soon. When you blink, the map changes. A star shifts slightly left. A new swirl appears at the bottom, not drawn, but grown. And then, the smell: smoke and orange peels. A hot sun you haven't seen. The sharp tang of rope soaked in brine. A faint tremble underfoot. You're not alone in your room anymore. You're standing on cobbled stone, somewhere between memory and myth. Spain. The year is 1492. Christopher Columbus is ahead of you, hunched over a map not unlike yours, speaking softly to himself in a language half prayers, half mathematics. He looks up when you arrive, and though you've never met, he nods once, as if he was expecting you. You follow him through the crooked streets of Palos de la Frontera. The air is thick with citrus, charcoal, and anticipation. Children dart between carts. Women sell herbs from linen-lined baskets, and the sea peeks at you between rooftops, waiting. No one seems to notice you don't belong here. Not even the old woman sweeping the steps of the church, who glances at you and says, "The stars only guide those who forget how to sleep." You reach the docks at twilight. The sky is the color of warm wine. 3 ships bob in the tide, each of them smaller than you'd imagined. The Niña, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. She groans in the shallows like she already knows what lies ahead. The crew is gathering. Rough hands, nervous eyes. One boy sharpens a dagger, another fingers a wooden charm. You smell sweat, rope, and the faintest trace of fear. Columbus says nothing. He runs his palm along the hull and breathes deeply, like he's about to step inside a memory he's not sure belongs to him. You don't remember climbing aboard, but you're suddenly there. The deck creaks beneath your feet. The sailcloth ripples with language. And somewhere below, the hold breathes slowly, like lungs filling for the first time in weeks. That night, as the moon rises, the town fades into soft shadows behind you. And the map folds itself in your hands, not to hide, but to begin. The morning doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in slowly, like honey through linen, painting the ship's deck in sleepy gold. You open your eyes not to the sound of shouting, but to a hush, the kind that feels more like waiting than silence. The Santa Maria sways gently beneath you, tethered like a dream not quite ready to slip away. You step out from below deck. The port of Palos still lies just beyond reach, veiled by mist and the waking cries of seagulls. The harbor looks smaller now, as if your ship had grown overnight, or perhaps your heart had. Columbus stands at the prow, gazing ahead, lips pressed tight into the shape of a prayer. You approach him slowly, half expecting him to speak. He doesn't. He simply hands you a piece of dried fig and points toward the horizon. The other ships stir like sleepy animals. The Niña, lean and clever-looking. The Pinta, restless and twitchy. Together they wait, like siblings at the edge of a great family secret. And then, a sound, so soft, it barely registers. But every sailor hears it, the sails catching the wind for the first time. It's not the thunderous crack Hollywood likes to imagine. No, it's a whisper. Cloth breathing in the morning. You hear a voice behind you murmur, "She's speaking." You turn, but no one claims the words. Historical records will say the fleet departed on August 3rd, 1492, just after sunrise, that they carried food, tools, and a letter for the Great Khan. But they won't mention the stowaway cat that sleeps curled near the lanterns, or the violin someone plays under their breath when the waves are calm enough, or that one sailor swears the figurehead whispered his name in the night. You wander the deck, fingers trailing the rail. The wood is warm from the sun, and yet you feel something beneath it. A pulse, maybe, or perhaps the ship simply wants to be remembered. Below, the harbor fades. Children wave. An old man crosses himself. Someone tosses petals into the water. And just like that, land begins to vanish. One sailor jokes, "There goes Europe." But his laughter doesn't stick. You realize no one is watching what they leave. They're watching how it disappears. The first full day is oddly still. The crew adjusts lines, takes turns at the tiller, and swaps stories laced with more imagination than fact. You hear about mermaids near the Azores who sing sailors to madness, and a black island shaped like a skull that moves. Historians still argue, says one bearded sailor with a wink, whether that island actually sank, or if it still roams the seas. You smile, not because you believe him, but because you want to. That night, as the ship drifts into deeper water, the stars come out like spilled secrets. You lie on your back near a coil of rope and watch them. Some shine steady. Others flicker, like they're winking just for you. Columbus walks past and says softly, "La mar está en calma, por ahora." The sea is calm, for now. There's something heavy in his voice. You wonder if he's thinking of failure, or of fame, or perhaps something stranger, the possibility that the map is wrong and the edge of the world will fold them like paper swans into another sky. You think of your map, tucked beneath your shirt, still warm against your skin. That night, you dream, but not of land. You dream of a silver fish with golden eyes, guiding your ship through fog. of a chorus of voices under the water, humming lullabies only the compass understands, of the sails curling like scrolls and revealing forgotten names of stars. In the dream, the Santa Maria sails above the sea, not upon it, gliding through sky made of ink. You wake before dawn, uncertain whether you slept at all. Beside you, a crewman scribbles something into a leather-bound book. You glance over and catch the words. She hums at night, like she remembers something I don't. You nod, quietly, because you've heard it too. And just before the sun peeks over the vast blue lip of the world, you notice something strange. One of the ropes, the thick one near the stern, has a knot that wasn't there yesterday. Braided into it is a small, feather-shaped charm. Golden, familiar. You don't touch it, not yet. The sea, when it wakes, doesn't do so with drama. It murmurs, a lullaby in motion. You feel it under your feet as the Santa Maria breathes. A wooden sigh, a low creak, a rhythm older than sails and men. She's not a large ship, not really. Just shy of 100 feet, modest even by the standards of her time. But there's something in the way she moves, something that makes you wonder if she knows where she's going before any man does. You're below deck now, ducking beneath beams darkened by salt and smoke. It smells of pitch and damp linen, with a hint of last night's fish stew. Hammocks sway gently with sleeping forms, and you tiptoe through the shadows, feeling like a stowaway in your own dream. A rat scampers past your boot. You nod politely. The crew is starting to settle into rhythms, hauling, swabbing, watching. Every man has a task, even if half of them pretend they don't. There's Rodrigo, the boy with the cracked singing voice who carves tiny ships from driftwood, and Torres, who swears his grandmother once read fortunes in seagull droppings. One sailor confides in you. The Santa Maria listens. You can feel it. When she groans, the wind is about to change. You don't doubt it. Historians note that the Santa Maria was the slowest of the three ships, a carack, heavier and more stubborn than the nimble caravels. But they don't record how her timbers sometimes hum, or how the lanterns flicker in time with the heartbeat of her hull. You place your palm on the wood. Wait. There it is. A steady thump, like distant thunder beneath your skin. You stay like that longer than you intend. It's comforting, really, as if the ship itself promises that it won't let you fall. Above deck, a gull lands on the rail. It watches you with a tilt of its head, then drops something near your feet, a tiny seashell shaped like a spiral. Inside, you hear something, not a sound, more like a pressure, a hush. You pocket it before anyone sees. There's talk now of currents, of veering slightly south, catching the Canary Stream. Columbus is confident, the helmsman less so. A quiet debate swirls around the course, barely loud enough to disturb the wind. You sit with Diego, a cartographer's apprentice who smells faintly of ink and nervous sweat. He lets you peer over his shoulder as he sketches a new map, or, more accurately, corrects the old one as per Columbus's musings. "This place," he whispers, pointing to a patch of empty ocean. "He says it leads to Sipangu. I think it leads to nowhere." Then, after a pause, "Or maybe somewhere stranger. Fringe tales resurface around the fire later that evening. One sailor, with eyes too wide to be trusted, speaks of a whirlpool that sings. Another says his uncle vanished at sea, only to reappear a year later in a monastery, claiming he had tea with demons and gods alike on a floating island made of bones. You add your own story, softly, half laughing, about a map that moved when no one looked. A few chuckle. One nods, too slowly. Historians still argue, Diego mutters, whether Columbus was guided by science or something else. That night, you help secure the sails. Your hands grow blistered. Your shoulders ache. But it feels right, like earning your place in a story you can't quite read. The wind picks up. The ship rocks more than usual. You hear ropes strain, the hull groan. But within it all, there's that same heartbeat. Steady, assuring. The stars come late, clouded, moody. But when they arrive all at once, like a crowd stepping onto a silent stage. You lie beneath them, fingers tracing constellations you half remember. Someone nearby begins to hum an old hymn, soft, low, reverent. Columbus passes behind you again. This time, he pauses. You hear her too, he says. And you do. You always have. The Santa Maria doesn't just sail. She feels. She remembers every footfall, every whisper, every dream uttered to her beams. And you, quiet companion that you are, have started to remember with her. You dream of wood that floats not because of buoyancy, but because it once learned to breathe. Of ships born from trees that heard ancient lullabies in the forest. Of rudders that know regret. Of sails stitched from wedding veils and shrouds alike. When you wake, there's a feather by your side again. But this time, it's damp with salt. The days now stretch like thread, delicate and nearly invisible. You wake and sleep to the same sound, wood moaning softly as it rocks, as if whispering to itself. It's night again. At least, you think it is. Time aboard the Santa Maria has begun to slip sideways, not in hours, but in moods. The sky above is ink spilled across the horizon. The stars pulse like heartbeat lanterns. The sea reflects none of them. It holds its own secrets. You're on deck with a few others. Some snore softly near barrels. A sailor sings in the dark, not for an audience, but because the silence has started to feel like an invitation. His voice is cracked, worn smooth by wind and worry, but the song is beautiful. An old sailor's ballad about a sea witch who traded her voice for a compass that always pointed home. Columbus doesn't stop him. He just stares out across the black water, eyes reflecting stars and something else, something distant. You wonder what he sees. Gold, glory, or maybe ghosts. Historians mention how the sailors were often frightened during these nights, how they feared sailing off the edge of the world, into darkness that swallowed men whole. But they don't mention the music, the endless hum of rope and rhythm and throat, songs meant not to soothe the sea, but to keep it company. The map in your pocket is different now. You can feel it, heavier, maybe, or warmer. You haven't looked at it since that first day. You don't dare. It feels alive in a way maps shouldn't. Tonight, you finally ask a question. You find Diego scribbling by the dim light of an oil lamp, and you whisper, "Do you think we'll find anything?" He doesn't answer, just shrugs. Then he says, "Depends what you think we're looking for." You think about that for a long time. Nearby, a group of men exchange old stories, folk tales and half-truths stitched into one another like patched sails. You hear a new one tonight. "There's an island shaped like a hand," says a wide-jawed sailor named Felipe. "And if you land there, it closes its fingers and you never leave." Someone chuckles nervously. "And another," says Rodrigo, "where the moon is so bright, it burns your shadow off." You come back to the ship with no past. These are the songs the men tell when they think no one is listening. Myths that seep from their mouths like smoke. Historians still argue whether the men truly believed these things. Columbus mutters from the rail, more to himself than anyone. But belief is just a map drawn in fear. You turn your gaze to the stars. They look close tonight. Too close. As if the ship has sailed above the clouds and into the sky itself. You lie back and let the sway of the ship guide your thoughts. Each creak is a drumbeat. Each breath of wind, a lullaby. And somewhere in the dark, just beyond the reach of firelight, someone begins to whistle. A tune you don't know, but one that feels remembered. Like a lullaby your great-grandmother might have hummed before language had rules. You close your eyes. The stars drift across your lids like gentle waves. In your half-sleep, you dream again. Not of land, not of gold, not even of Columbus. You dream of a vast library under the ocean, each book a bottle, each page wet with ink that moves. You walk through it barefoot, reading stories written by currents, by whales, by shipwrecks. A bottle floats past you in the dream. You catch it. Inside, you see a version of yourself, smiling beside Columbus. But the ship is made of bone. You drop the bottle, and it sinks without sound. You wake slowly, mouth dry, heart oddly calm. The ship is still, the stars indifferent, and right beside you, where your hand rests, is the map. It's no longer folded. One new word now glows faintly near the center. Soon. By the 5th week, the world becomes water. You no longer remember how many days it's been, just that the sky and sea now mirror each other so perfectly, they seem like opposite faces of the same great silence. You often stand at the rail and try to decide where the ocean ends and the air begins. You never succeed. The Santa Maria cuts through it gently, like a quill scratching across a blue page that never runs out. Each ripple a syllable, each wave a secret. You wake to the creaking of ropes and the sigh of sailcloth, sounds that now live inside your muscles, your breath, your bones. Columbus is already up. He's always up. He doesn't sleep much anymore. He watches the horizon like it owes him something. Some sailors have begun to murmur. The food is holding, barely. Water's been rationed tighter. The wind has grown unpredictable. Even the seagulls have stopped following. "Still nothing," someone says. But they don't mean land. They mean anything. A change, a sign, a reason to keep going. a cloud that looks like a dragon, a fish that swims in circles, a whisper that isn't theirs. Historical accounts mention this stretch of the voyage in dry terms: long days, mounting anxiety, a crew growing restless. But they never capture the ache, the hunger not of the belly, but of the mind, the part of you that craves the shape of something solid beyond the endless roll of blue. You try not to think of it. You help Diego sort charts, even though there's nothing new to draw. He's taken to sketching imaginary islands, tiny lands shaped like teacups, horseshoes, even once. A sleeping face. You ask him why. So when we finally reach something, he says, I'll remember how to believe in it. Tonight, a sailor named Mateo brings out a strange object. It looks like a flute made from coral. He says he got it from a man who spoke in riddles and salt. He plays a tune so low it barely exists, and yet you feel it in your ribs. The sound makes the wind stop. No one says anything. You go to sleep that night wondering if the sea can hear. Your dreams are quieter now, less filled with visions, more with feeling. A sense of floating, not just on water, but through memory. You dream of cities made from sailcloth, of anchors dropped into the sky, of voices beneath the waves, offering directions in languages that taste like copper and wind. One voice says, "Turn back." Another says, "Almost." A third voice, your own, simply laughs. You wake to a cry from the crow's nest. "Something! I see something!" Everyone rushes up, squinting into the dawn. But there's only water. Infinite, gentle, cruel water. The sailor swears it was land, or a fish, or a bird, or maybe a cloud in the shape of a mountain. It doesn't matter. The hope alone is enough to stir the air like soup. That evening, you notice something odd. The compass, the one Columbus guards more fiercely than the charts, spins slowly, not wildly, but as if it's thinking, doubting. You mention it to no one. Instead, you sit alone at the stern, legs dangling over the edge. The water below is darker now, not blue, but indigo, nearly black. And yet you feel calm, as if something beneath is watching, not with hunger, but with memory, with recognition. Your map has changed again. Now it glows faintly in the dark, pulsing like a firefly. New markings swirl at its corners, not letters, but shapes. You run your finger along one. It hums. You pocket it quickly as Columbus walks by, muttering in Latin. You catch a few words. Stella Maris. Guide me. Star of the sea. A prayer, perhaps, or a plea. That night, the crew sings again. The same song about the sea witch. But this time, the chorus changes. Someone adds a verse about a ship that sails forever, never reaching land, but always circling the edge of dreams. You join in, not because you know the words, but because somehow you've always known the tune. Dawn breaks like a slow smile today, stretched across the sea in long amber fingers that warm the deck boards and brush your face with their light. The water gleams gold for a moment. Then it forgets. You're near the bow, watching the endless ocean breathe. Each wave a slow inhale, each crest a yawn. Then, a shadow glides across your vision. Silent, low, deliberate. A bird. Not a gull, not a tern. Something larger. Elegant. Its wings stretch longer than a man's height, pure white with faint gray tips. An albatross. The crew notices it too. It circles the ship once, then again, then again. Sailors freeze in place, not out of fear, but reverence. There are stories, you've learned, for everything out here. And this bird has a tale of its own. A soul reborn, says Felipe, eyes wide. They say when an albatross finds you at sea, someone from your past wants to speak. Rodrigo adds, if you harm it, the wind dies. Forever. Someone laughs nervously, but no one moves. Historical accounts will mark the sightings of birds as signs of nearing land, but they don't record what the men felt when they saw them. The hope that cracked the silence, the fear that maybe the bird was lost too. The albatross glides once more, then perches high on the mainmast. It doesn't blink, just watches. That evening, the winds shift. A warm breeze, smelling faintly of flowers, brushes your cheek. You close your eyes. It's impossible. There are no flowers here. And yet, you remember something. A garden from your childhood. Lemons, warm stone, laughter. It doesn't belong here, and still, it returns to you like a tide you didn't know you'd missed. That night, the bird remains. It sleeps atop the mast, feathers tucked, dreaming whatever birds dream. And then, a strange thing. As you pass by the captain's quarters, you see Columbus not charting maps, not calculating stars, but speaking to someone who isn't there. His voice is soft but intense, reverent. You don't catch the words, but you feel them, like threads wrapping around your chest. Something about sacrifice, something about fire, something about promises made under moonlight. You leave quietly. Later, as you lean against the rail, Diego approaches with a question you didn't expect. Do you believe in angels? You pause. It's not a question sailors ask lightly. He continues, my mother said they appear to those who are about to change the world, or those who are about to lose it. The albatross stirs above. You shrug. Maybe it's both. You fall asleep beneath that thought and dream of feathers, white and soft and countless, falling from the sky like snow. Each one carries a whisper, a name, a memory, yours among them. One feather drifts slower than the others. You reach for it, and it turns to flame in your palm. You wake suddenly. Cold sweat. No sound but the creak of the ship and the low snore of the men nearby. You sit up, and there, not 2 feet away, rests a single feather. It is not white. It is gold, and etched into its spine, impossibly, is a word in a language you do not recognize. Not Latin, not Castilian, not anything your world has taught you. You stare at it for a long time. When you show it to Diego in the morning, he squints, confused. "That's not writing," he says. "That's music." You look again. He's right. The feather hums when you hold it to your ear. A soft, lilting tune. It matches the song the crew sang last night, the one that didn't have a beginning, only a middle and an end. Historians still argue whether Columbus was guided by maps, Diego says, or by something he couldn't name. You nod slowly, pocket the feather. The albatross flies away at midday, not toward land, but toward the sky, as if it had simply finished its watch. You and the crew gaze after it until it vanishes into a cloud shaped suspiciously like a doorway. No one speaks for a while after that. But when they do, the voices are quieter. The sea has moods now, not tides, moods. Some days it rolls gently, as if trying not to wake you. Other days it slaps the hull with lazy disdain, like a parent rousing a stubborn child. But today, the sea is still, too still. The sun glares overhead, sharp and heavy. Not warm, hot, oppressive. The kind of light that makes sailors squint at one another with suspicion. The kind that makes tempers boil in silence before spilling over. It begins with a whisper. He doesn't know where we're going. You hear it by the barrels, muttered behind a palm of salted fingers. You hear it again on the ropes, between sighs. And again near the tiller, where the helmsman scratches his beard and says nothing. Columbus is pacing. That's always a bad sign. He measures the deck with anxious strides, stopping only to peer into the sea as if it might blink and show him land. The men are worn thin. Food is low, water lower. The albatross is gone. The feather no longer hums. And the wind. The wind has forgotten how to speak. That night, the ship doesn't sing. Instead, it listens. The crew gathers in tight knots, voices low but sharp. You catch phrases. He's lied. We've passed Asia. He's cursed us. Even Diego, usually calm, grips his compass tighter. Historians still argue whether a mutiny truly came that night, he says. But something broke. You can feel it. You nod. Because he's right. You try to sleep. You really do. But there's something strange in the air. A tension, a vibration just beneath the skin, like the ship itself is holding its breath. Then, a sound. Footsteps. Fast. Angry. You rise, step outside. Columbus stands at the center of the deck. Lanterns flicker around him like nervous fireflies. Facing him, Martin Pinzon, captain of the Pinta, fists clenched, voice sharp. "Where are we?" he demands. "How much longer will we chase ghosts?" Columbus doesn't shout. He doesn't tremble. Instead, he looks up. You follow his gaze. The moon, huge, full, yellowed like parchment, and clouded on one side as if it's wearing a mask. Columbus steps forward. "Tonight," he says quietly, "we reach the edge of fear." The men growl. Someone shouts. A blade flashes. Tension rises like a wave. Then, the moon begins to disappear. Slowly, uneasily. An eclipse. No one speaks. The sky darkens unnaturally fast. Stars flicker out like nervous candles. The moon's face fades into shadow until it's just a sliver, a hook in the heavens. Panic. Someone drops to their knees. Someone else crosses himself backward. He's cursed it! No, he controls it. Columbus doesn't speak. He simply steps into the lantern light, letting it glow against his cloak. His eyes gleam. You realize in that moment that he's planned this, or hoped for it, or perhaps begged for it. Because what better way to still a mutiny than to eclipse the moon? And maybe, just maybe, he didn't do it alone. Your map pulses in your chest pocket. You pull it out. Now, across the center, a line of symbols glows faintly. The same musical script that once marked the feather. But this time, they sing in your head. A lullaby in reverse. The ship stills. The sky remains dark, and the men, silent now, back away slowly. No vote is cast. No swords are drawn. But the mutiny dies, quietly, like a wave that chooses not to crash. The moon returns, inch by inch, pale and apologetic. And just like that, the night ends. You sit alone afterward, legs curled beneath you, holding the map gently in your lap. You can't read it. Not really. But you don't need to. It hums now, like the ship, like the sea. Sometimes, Diego whispers beside you, the moon is just the moon. But sometimes, it watches. You nod. Because tonight, it wasn't just the moon. It was the mirror. And something on the other side finally blinked. It happens not with trumpets, or cheers, or divine revelation. It happens with a scent, a strange one. Familiar, but wrong. You wake before dawn, stirred by something soft in the air. A perfume of green things, of damp wood, of flowers that shouldn't bloom in the middle of an endless sea. You rise. Others are stirring too. They sniff the breeze like dogs, unsure if they're dreaming. Then a voice, cracked and breathless, from the Nina's crow's nest. Tierra! Land. A cry older than hope. Suddenly, the ship is alive. Footsteps thunder across the deck. Men rush to the rails. Eyes squint against the gray glow of breaking dawn. You follow their gaze. And there it is. A line, faint as a whisper, rising from the mist. Not sharp, not bold, but real. Real in a way the sea never was. A smudge of green and brown. A promise made flesh. Columbus doesn't speak. He just stares. His face is still, but his knuckles are white around the railing. Historical accounts confirm the date. October 12th, 1492. But what they don't say is that time feels different now. The air tastes of copper. Your heartbeat slows. The wind, gentle again, brushes your skin like a mother's hand. As the ships approach, the mist thickens. You expect it to clear. It doesn't. Instead, it shapes itself. Around palm fronds, strange trees, tall shadows that seem to bend away when you look directly at them. No one speaks. No one needs to. The anchor drops with a sigh, a long, echoing sigh, as though the ship herself is grateful to rest. Columbus descends to a rowboat first. His boots thump against wood. The water around the ship is shallow, clear as glass, revealing fish that glow faintly with pale gold. You follow him down. As the boat rows closer, your eyes widen. The beach is like something out of a half-remembered tale. White sand, yes, but speckled with shells shaped like stars. Vines coil along the trunks of ancient trees, flowering in reds so deep they border on violet. The mist moves with you, not around you, with you, as though curious. You step onto land. The sand is warm. It yields beneath your feet, as if exhaling after centuries of silence. No one speaks. Then a soft sound. Music? A flute, somewhere in the trees. Gentle, bird-like. Impossible. The sailors freeze. You listen. And then, figures. Not ghosts. Not spirits. People. Brown-skinned, elegant, cautious. They emerge slowly, holding small objects in their hands, feathers, fruits, polished stones. You sense no fear in them, only questions. Columbus steps forward. He extends a hand, a gesture rehearsed 1,000 times in his mind. One of the islanders steps forward too, a young man, eyes bright and unafraid. He places something in Columbus's palm, a carved turtle shell etched with symbols that shimmer when touched. Then, the islander looks at you. Just you. He tilts his head, as if he knows something. Then he says something in a language you've never heard. You don't understand the words, but your map does. It warms instantly against your chest, then shifts. You pull it free. New lines now, new names. The coast drawn in that same musical ink, a place not marked on any European chart. But the name pulses across the bottom. Guanahani. Columbus will call it San Salvador. You know better. You sit beside a palm tree. The sand clings to your boots. The wind carries laughter now, not yours. Children dart through the trees, giggling. A parrot lands nearby, watching you with one eye, head tilted. The mist pulls back, just slightly, and for a moment you see something in the distance. A doorway? A ruin? No, a shape, curved and strange and impossibly large, covered in vines, half buried. You blink. It's gone. You say nothing, but you know the land has a memory, and that memory is waking up. Columbus orders a cross planted. The crew starts unpacking, ropes, food, parchment. But you stay seated, quiet, watching the mist, because you know what this is. Not just landfall, not just discovery, arrival. And the real journey has only just begun. The days that follow are soft, warm, and strange, like waking from a dream only to find you've stumbled into another one. The island, Guanahani, though Columbus insists on San Salvador, hums with life. Not the frantic noise of cities or ships, but a steady, rhythmic pulse that seems to echo from tree to tree, wave to wave, skin to sky. The palms here are tall and golden, not green, golden. Their fronds shimmer when the wind touches them, as if sunlight has learned to grow on branches. You run your fingers over their bark, smooth, warm, almost like skin. A few sailors swear they hear them whisper. The islanders move quietly through the trees. They wear almost nothing, but carry themselves like royalty. Their laughter is easy, melodic. They speak a language of movement, hand signs, soft phrases, glances that feel like poetry. You sit among them sometimes, offered fruits shaped like moons and seeds that taste of honeyed earth. One elder tells you a legend, through gesture and song, of a turtle who carried the first man on his back across the sea, until they reached the edge where the stars grow. Diego tries to map everything, but the island resists. Paths vanish when redrawn. Streams twist overnight. He crumples another page in frustration. The land forgets, he mutters, or remembers only what it wants. Historians still debate whether this was the first island they landed on, whether Guanahani was in the Bahamas or elsewhere entirely. But as you lie beneath a vine-draped arch, listening to a flute carved from fishbone, you realize it doesn't matter. The island is exactly where it wants to be. At night, you sleep beneath the open sky. The stars here seem closer, hung lower. The Milky Way spills across the black like powdered pearl. The fire crackles softly beside you, and one of the island children curls beside your knee, asleep with a flower in her hand. You dream again, this time of a city buried under the roots of a tree, vast and silent. Statues carved in stone and wood. One of them bears your face. You wake to find that same flower, the one from the child's hand, resting gently on your chest. Columbus spends most of his days documenting, instructing. He seems distant from the island, like he wants to possess it, not understand it. You watch him pace among the palms, making proclamations to men who are too busy chewing fruit to care. One afternoon, he shows you a rock he's found, flecked with gold. Proof, he says, smiling. They'll believe me now. You say nothing, because nearby, an island woman gently braids a sailor's hair while humming a song about the sea forgetting how to be cruel. You help repair a canoe with the locals. It's shaped differently from European boats, more like a leaf that wants to drift back into the river it once grew from. The man beside you paints its edge with something that glows faintly after sunset. He doesn't explain. Later, you and Diego sit by a tide pool. Tiny creatures swim lazily inside, some translucent, some glowing like stars. One fish swims in a perfect circle, over and over, like it's tracing the outline of an invisible coin. Diego says, "I don't think we discovered this place." You raise an eyebrow. "I think it found us." You nod, because deep down, you agree. One sailor tries to cut down one of the golden palms. The axe breaks on the first strike. The islanders laugh, not mockingly, just knowingly. That night, a soft rain falls, warm and silent. You turn your face to it and let it wash away the salt and sleep and doubt. The air smells of lemongrass and ash. You glance at your map again. It has changed. Again. Now, the coastline glows faintly. A new name has appeared near the center, Elion Hollow. You ask no one about it. You'll go there. You just don't know when. Columbus gathers the crew the next morning. He wants to leave soon, to continue west, find real gold, real glory. But you hesitate, because something in the island hums your name, not with sound, but with space. The ground seems to lean toward you. The trees bend when you pass. Even the mist lingers just a moment longer around your skin. The journey may move on, but something here wants you to stay. You venture inland. The coastline is only the island's smile, its greeting. But deeper inside, past the palms and fruit-scented air, lies its memory, its truth. You follow a footpath so old that even the birds don't bother to watch you. The locals said it leads to the mangroves, a labyrinth of water and wood where the island's oldest stories sleep. Diego doesn't come. He's still mapping things that won't stay still. Columbus is far too occupied with converting fruit into inventory. But you follow the pulse. The map in your pocket grows warmer with every step. At first, it's quiet. Just your breath, the buzz of tiny wings, the occasional thump of a falling fruit. Then, the ground softens. Trees cluster closer. Roots arch above your head like ancient ribs. The air thickens. Not unpleasant, but heavy, as though you're wading into someone else's dream. The mangroves rise, gnarled, tangled, beautiful. Their roots braid the water. The reflections are so perfect you feel upside down. And then the voices start, soft, layered, impossible to follow, not frightening, just forgotten. Like overhearing someone tell a story in the next room. You step into a canoe offered by a boy with eyes like dark mirrors. He doesn't speak. He only nods and pushes you gently into the slow-moving water. You drift. No paddling, no control. The canoe glides by itself. Birds perch overhead. None you recognize. Some with tails like ink strokes. One with a face shaped like a mask. Carvings emerge on the trees. Faces. Spirals. One tree wears a necklace of shells that glint like teeth, and the whispers grow clearer. They speak not of conquest or maps, but of myths. There is one about a serpent that sleeps beneath the island, curling under every root. It only stirs when the land forgets itself. Another about a woman with skin of bark who can summon fish with her tears. And one, half song, half sigh, about a boat that returns to the same shore again and again, never aging, never stopping, always searching for someone who once promised to return. You know these stories weren't meant for you, but still, the trees seem to want you to hear them. Historians, of course, never wrote about the mangrove tales. They recorded crops, topography, soil types, but not the stories, not the soul of the place. Your canoe stops. You're in a clearing, half swamp, half temple. Stone markers jut from the water, etched with glyphs too precise to be accidental. The air smells of copper and rain. In the center, a single tree, gnarled beyond belief. Its roots rise into the air like a frozen scream. Tied around its trunk, a necklace of feathers. Gold ones. You step out of the canoe. The moment your foot touches the water, it stops moving. Completely. You walk to the tree, not because you want to, but because you must. Your map pulses. You take it out. It glows so brightly it lights the mangrove walls. A word has appeared. Maini. A name? A place? A person? The water around you begins to hum. You kneel. Press your palm to the tree, and it speaks. Not aloud, not in words, but through memory. You see the first men arrive on this island, not with ships, but with stars in their mouths. They were guided by dreams, not compasses, and they planted songs in the soil, not flags. You see fires that do not burn, water that remembers laughter. You see a child with your eyes building a canoe shaped like a crescent moon. Then it fades. You're back in your body. The water stirs again. The whispers pull away like a tide. And the boy, the one with mirror eyes, waits with the canoe. You return the way you came. The journey feels shorter now, almost reluctant. The forest exhales. Back at the village, no one asks where you went. But one of the islanders, the same young man who gave Columbus the turtle shell, places a hand on your shoulder and says, softly, "Now you've heard her." You nod, because you have. And though you can't explain what the stories mean or why they chose you, you know they are true. And you know this land, this island, is not something to be claimed. It is something that remembers. The beach becomes a marketplace, not in the way of gold or scales, but of wonder. The sailors and the islanders have begun to trade. Shiny things for silent things, beads for baskets, bells for fruit. But what's being exchanged isn't value, it's curiosity. You sit beside a woven mat and watch as a young sailor offers a pocket mirror to a girl with braids full of blue feathers. She gasps when she sees her face, then tilts the mirror toward the sea, as if showing it to the water. In return, she gives him a moon, not a real one. A carved pendant, pale and cool and shaped like a crescent. When he holds it up to the light, it glows faintly, just for him. Another sailor offers a comb. He receives a song, not a performance, an actual song, hummed low into his chest. He walks differently after. Columbus watches all of this with a furrowed brow. It's not what he came for. There's no glory in trade that can't be taxed. But the rest of the crew, they're softening. One sailor, usually gruff and hoarse, lets a child paint his arms with crushed berries. Another teaches a group of islanders how to whistle with a blade of grass. You can hear them practicing all through the trees. Historians often portray this part simply, Diego says. Peaceful first contact, cultural exchange, but they never mention the way the air felt. You look up. He's right. The air does feel different. It hums, like the island is watching through its roots, approving, but cautious. Later, Diego shows you something, a necklace he traded for, made of polished black shells. When I wear it, he says, I can hear the ocean better, like it's whispering names I don't know yet. You touch it, and it sings, not aloud, inside. Columbus writes in his logbook by firelight. You peek over his shoulder. Words like tame, docile, willing to serve, scribbled in cold ink. He's trying to fit the island into his story, but the island keeps slipping out. That night, you walk by the tide. The water is low, calm, reflective. You carry nothing. Then, from the trees, an island woman approaches. She holds out something in both hands, a small, round stone with a single line through the middle. You take it. It's smooth and heavy. She speaks one word, Nalata. You repeat it. She nods once and disappears into the mist. You ask an elder the next morning what the word means. They smile and answer, the space between two dreams. You turn the stone over in your hand. The line glows faintly when you breathe on it. Later, the crew gathers for a feast. Islanders bring roasted roots, fish wrapped in herbs, fruits you've never seen before. There's music, laughter. Lanterns made of hollow gourds glow like stars scattered on the sand. Columbus doesn't eat much. He's planning. But the rest of you forget planning. You remember joy. You dance with a child who steps only on your feet. You try a fruit that tastes like sleep. You watch the moon rise over the water, full and huge, like a pearl held between heaven's fingers. Rodrigo carves a gift, a comb shaped like a sailing ship. He gives it to an island boy who immediately puts it in his hair and salutes. Historians still argue whether the natives understood the trades they made, Diego says later, watching the fire. But I wonder if it's us who didn't understand what we were given. You nod. Because how do you value a moment? How do you barter for belonging? When the fire dies, you lie back on the sand. Your map pulses again. But this time, it doesn't change. It just glows a steady blue, as if to say, stay here, stay in this, just a little longer. It happens quietly, not with ceremony, not with speeches or banners or celebration. Just a single sentence from Columbus, spoken while staring into the fire. We prepare to return. The words don't ripple like they used to. The crew doesn't cheer. They nod. Some with relief, some with sorrow, some with eyes still watching the forest. The islanders say nothing. But the trees bend ever so slightly in the breeze that night, like they're leaning away. You begin gathering things, ropes, sails, journals, regrets. The mist returns thicker now, as if the island is gently reclaiming what it lent. One child offers Diego a pouch of sand. For the parts of the ocean that forget, he's told. He holds it like an heirloom. You find yourself walking slowly, dragging your fingers along bark, humming songs you didn't know you knew. When you say goodbye to the elder who told the story of the turtle, he simply places a hand over your heart and says, "You'll be back." Not a question, a certainty. The return voyage begins at dawn. No one speaks as the rowboats glide silently back to the anchored ships. The surf is gentle. The ocean familiar again. Predictable. Dull, even. But the land doesn't disappear. It lingers. Even as the sails rise and catch the wind, even as the coastline shrinks into mist, you feel watched. Not ominously, but like a parent letting go of a child's hand for the first time. Historians recorded the departure, that Columbus left with prisoners and gifts, parrots, plants, gold trinkets, but they don't mention the silence in the men. the hush that settles over the ship like a second skin. You stand by the rail. The map in your pocket is cool now. Asleep, maybe, or content. The sea stretches out in its old rhythm. The same stars above, the same currents, but nothing feels the same. Even the Santa Maria creaks differently, not in fatigue, in remembrance. Rodrigo shows you something, a sketch he made of the island. Except it isn't right. The shapes are off, the angle's wrong. He frowns. It made sense there, he says, tapping the page. But out here, it's all blurred. Diego adds, maybe the island only reveals what it wants us to recall. That night, you dream not of land, but of being watched by land. You see an island walking. Yes, walking. Its roots like legs, its trees like hair. It follows your ship not with anger, but longing, as if it, too, wants to remember what it felt like to be touched. You wake with a name on your tongue. Nalata, the space between two dreams. Your map pulses once, briefly, but you don't look at it. Not yet. The days pass. The sea is easier this time, but heavier. You carry more weight, not in your hands, in your heart. The food is plainer, the conversations less vibrant. Laughter doesn't carry as far. One night, the sea glows, literally. Phosphorescent light dances in the ship's wake. The crew cheers, briefly. But you sit in silence, thinking of fireflies under vines, of glowing fish in tide pools, of songs hummed into your bones. Columbus writes constantly, his face stern. He speaks of conquest, of God's favor, of glory and reward. You wonder if he ever really saw the island, truly saw it. You wonder if anyone will believe what you saw. The tree that remembered your name, the stone that glowed, the flute carved from silence. Probably not. Historians still argue, Diego says one evening, whether we discovered the new world or just brushed against an old one's skin. You sit together, watching stars gather like gossip in the sky. You ask, do you think we'll ever return? He doesn't answer, because some answers don't belong to now. You dream again, not of the island, but of the ocean whispering to the moon, and the moon nodding, and something deep below rising slowly, silently, like it too remembers you. And it's glad you're going back, but sorry that you had to leave. The land is hard again, not just under your feet, in the air, in the stone walls, in the faces. You've returned not to comfort, but to sharp edges and the echo of boots in cold corridors. The ships dock at Palace like ghosts. The town is smaller now, or perhaps you're just bigger in ways the streets can't hold. The crew disembarks in silence. Some rush to taverns. Some fall to their knees. Others simply stare at the buildings like strangers in their own dreams. You travel with Columbus to Castile. He wants an audience with the Queen. The court is no longer a rumor. It's a breathing thing. Powdered wigs, heavy velvet, pages scurrying like wind-up mice, banners that flutter in breezes conjured by protocol alone. Everything here is sharp. Polished boots, measured voices, unblinking eyes. Isabella sits on a throne carved from oak and silence. She listens to Columbus with practiced stillness. He kneels. He unspools the tale. Ships, islands, gold, salvation. The words come like honey, thick and deliberate. He offers her fruits, carved idols, even one of the parrots who whistles the same 3 syllables again and again. Nalata, Nalata, Nalata. She smiles, but not with her eyes. She asks no questions about the people, only the land, the yields, the maps. Columbus places the feather on her lap, the gold one. She lifts it, studies it, then sets it down as if it's just another curiosity. You stand at the back of the hall, forgotten or ignored, which is fine. You're used to that now. Historians agree, Diego murmurs beside you. This moment changed the world. You wonder what else changed. You leave the court before the decision is made. The air inside was too still, too far from the sea. You walk the streets of Castile in silence. The map stays hidden, but it hums now and then, like it knows it doesn't belong here either. You meet a boy selling oranges. He speaks quickly, excited by your strange clothes. You give him a coin. He gives you a smile that reminds you of the islanders. In an alley nearby, you see a mural painted on stone. Rough, amateur. It shows a ship and a star, a palm tree, a circle in the sky. You don't know how it got there. You stand in front of it for a long time. When you return to your lodging, there's a letter waiting. From Columbus. 2 words. We depart. Another voyage. Another promise. He's found a new map, or claims he has. You read the note, then set it aside. Diego doesn't want to go again. He says he's thinking of the turtle stories now, the ones that end with the shell cracking. That night, you light no candle. You let the dark fold over you like the sail of the Santa Maria once did. Slow, familiar, comforting in its weight. You dream again. But this time, it's not of ships or stars. It's the throne room, empty, and the golden feather drifting gently through it like an autumn leaf, landing not on the throne, but on the floor, where a child picks it up and vanishes into a crack in the stone. You wake with a taste in your mouth, salt and fruit. You realize something. You never left the island. Not really. It followed you, in your steps, in your breath, in your bones. The days grow colder, not with season, but with forgetting. You sit alone in a study, the light thin and gray. The map lies open before you, its ink still pulsing ever so slightly. But no one wants to see it now. The court has their version. Neat, predictable, Crown approved. The official maps, the ones now printed, copied, gilded, bear no singing ink, no golden palms, no Nalata, no Maini. Guanahani has been renamed, reshaped, standardized. You recognize none of it. What you once saw no longer exists on paper. Diego sends you a letter, short, apologetic. I tried to tell them, he writes, but they wanted stories that fit their sails, not their stars. He's gone north, to sketch mountains, to find places that don't mind being named. You fold the letter. It smells faintly of rosemary. You place it inside the map like a pressed flower. Columbus has become something else now. Not a man. A symbol. His name travels faster than ships. People quote him, revere him, debate him. They wear his face on medals, sing songs about his courage. But none of them know how he stood in silence, watching feathers fall in a mangrove, or how he wept, silently, hidden in shadow, when the moon disappeared. Historians still argue whether he saw what he claimed, whether he lied, whether he knew. But you remember, because you were there. You saw the island breathe. You saw a bird speak with its wings. You held a map that hummed lullabies. And none of that is in their books. You walk now with a limp you didn't have before, a memory you can't share. You trace the coastlines with your fingers, not because you're planning, but because you're grieving. One day, a young student finds you sketching in the corner of a quiet library. She watches for a long time, then asks, "Is that a real place?" You don't answer immediately. Instead, you ask, "Do you believe in islands that listen?" She nods. Without hesitation, you give her the sketch, not to teach, but to pass something on. That night, the stars return to your dreams. They no longer whisper directions. They simply listen. And the sea is quiet again, not empty, just waiting. You wake to find a new marking on your map. It wasn't there before. It reads, Elion Hollow, forgotten, not lost. You recognize the curve of the coastline, but it isn't any coast you ever touched. Or maybe it is. A future place. A memory of what's to come. You fold the map slowly. It sighs, as it always does. In town, the people are celebrating something. A new treaty. A harvest. A lie. You pass through them like mist, unnoticed. In the window of a shop, you see a globe, newly made, beautiful, but wrong. You smile quietly, because now you understand. Maps don't tell the truth. They tell the story people want to believe. But stories, the real ones, don't need ink. They live in palms that shimmer, in trees that remember, in mangroves that hum, and in golden feathers that fall exactly when they must. Years have passed, not in a blur, in a slow drift, like a ship with a torn sail on a sea that forgot its wind. You now live quietly in a small coastal town with no real name, perched between chalk cliffs and tide-worn docks. No one here asks where you came from. They simply nod when you pass and leave bread on your step. You walk often, even when your joints complain. The ocean is never far. It follows you, or you follow it. Hard to tell now. You keep the map rolled inside a hollow cane. You don't look at it much anymore. Not because it stopped changing, but because you know it's still changing. Without you. Columbus is gone. He left the world the way a ship leaves the harbor, remembered differently by every eye that saw him. Some say he died bitter. Others say he still believed he'd found Asia. But you remember the quiet, the doubt, the feather he left on Isabella's lap. Historians still argue, Diego once wrote before vanishing for good, whether Columbus was a hero, a madman, or just a wind that blew in the right direction. You don't argue anymore, because labels are just anchors, and you've long since cut yours loose. In your little cottage, among salt jars and weathered wood, you keep one last thing from the voyage, a compass. It hasn't worked in decades, or rather, it hasn't spun, until today. You find it in the drawer, beneath the scarf the island child wove from reeds and laughter. The compass sits in your palm, light as breath, and it moves, slowly, deliberately, west, not northwest, not southwest, just west. But beyond the coast lies only ocean and memories. You walk to the shore, not hurried, just certain. The wind is soft, the waves are whispering again, the same song from the mangroves, still incomplete. The map inside your cane shifts. You feel it like a pulse in your hand. You unroll it, and for the first time in years, a new island appears. It has no name, but you already know it. Elion Hollow. You've dreamed of it, in fever, in laughter, in silence. You reach into your pocket and find it's already there. The golden feather, unburned, unaged, waiting. You look out at the water. The tide seems to bow to you, and you remember now what the island elder said. You'll be back. The compass spins once more, then stills. You smile and step into the boat waiting just beyond the mist. It rocks gently, like a heartbeat. The wind rises. The stars return, and the water begins to hum again, just for you. Now, let your eyes rest. Let your breath slow. You've been journeying a long time, across maps that sing, across stars that remember your name, across islands that breathe and forests that hum lullabies. Let it all fade now. The creak of old sails, the soft press of sand beneath your feet, the scent of fruit warmed in sun. Let the noise of the world slip behind you like a wake in the sea. You are safe. The ship is quiet. The compass has found its rest. Tonight, you no longer chase stories. You are part of one, woven between palms and tide, between myths and memory. Maybe you were never a passenger. Maybe the island called you long before the voyage began. Maybe it's calling you still. So lie back now. Feel the blanket pull gently over your shoulders like a sail being drawn. Let the stars tuck themselves around your dreams. There is no need to reach the next shore tonight. You've already arrived. You are home. Good night, dreamer of waves. Good night, keeper of feathers.